As beings that always seek survival, we humans are always aware of the possible dangers around us, but we are always keeping an eye on the skies to know what strange things that can fall on our heads. In today's video, I'm going to show you some curious things that came out of nowhere and of course scared a lot of people, right? Are you ready? So don't subscribe to forget, and tag along with me because I'm Tiago Tadeo and welcome to the Upside Down. Trash. Amazingly, trash is one of the main things that can fall from the sky and land in your or my backyard. Because of this, it is not uncommon to see news of human garbage debris coming from space, right? The big question is that not all of these remains are impressive as this one. Anyone who saw the scene in Monte Castello and Santa Catarina must have been impressed or thought it was the end of the world, right? I wouldn't put it past me. After all, this image is frighteningly beautiful too. From afar, it is difficult to predict where space trash will land and how much damage it will do. Imagine destroying a power tower or an entire house. It's a little scary just thinking about it, doesn't it? Fireball. When we look up at the sky, we usually look for the beauty that's in it, whether it's good weather to go to the beach or a funny cloud. But when this is seen, it gets a little more tense. This fireball in the sky scared the residents of Cariaquica in Espirito Santo for the simple fact of existing when it shouldn't. The video was posted on social media, and soon, the theories around what it could be began to pop up. A plane on fire, a meteor falling on Earth, a spaceship? Well, none of these created stories seem to be very good. But the explanation came through XEOSS citizen science by the newspaper Folha de Vitoria. The research group says this bright red light is most likely a flare gun, based on how it behaves in the sky and moves. The point is that even being a flare gun, the danger still stands. In the wrong hands, a flare gun can potentially become a lethal weapon. So if you're standing by someone with one of these in their hands and that person isn't trained to use it, try not to get too close, okay? Tony Stark? The next case of strange things falling from the sky doesn't really have an explanation, only theories about what could have happened. The event was filmed in Malecon de Campeche, Mexico, a coastal city with beautiful landscapes. The problem happened in 2022. A group was enjoying the view when they saw something strange, a light falling from the sky toward the sea without any real explanation. As you see in the video, the quality is a little bit bad, so it's a little difficult to analyze what that thing really was. But in one report, they say that the light rose at a given moment there before falling. In this situation, it could be a beacon from a boat that wanted help. But was it something else? Spaceships are always among the theories, right? But one of the people who posted the video on the internet joked. Could it be Tony Stark in the Iron Man armor? Remnants of the war. On March 11, 2022, Croatians in the city of Zagreb took notice when a UFO crashed into what appears to be a flower bed or park. The ship was very big and it did some damage, leaving quite the crater. But before you think it's a real spaceship, let's get to the hard facts of the news. The accident was nothing more than the remnants of the war that currently took place in Ukraine, a country that is relatively close to Croatia, which does not make people any less terrified, does it? According to Croatian authorities, the fallen object was a Russian-made unmanned drone. He possibly flew from Ukraine, passed through two other countries, Romania and Hungary, until arriving in Zagreb. The question of the fall remained because of the following question. What was the drone doing there, right? Another question was about the owner of the aircraft. At the time of the accident, no one could say whether the drone was in Ukrainian or Russian possession. In the end, for us mortals, it doesn't matter much. The most relevant thing to know is that war always takes problems to other corners beyond the borders where they are being fought, right? Bizarre accident. Now, in Palmer, Alaska, an extremely strange accident occurred in April 2022. In the sky, it was possible to see a very strange thing falling to Earth, with an unbelievable smoke trail coming out of the mysterious object. Worst of all was not the scare that the people of Palmer had, but the explanations of the case. The ones that either weren't given or weren't completely clear. First theories were made about the fact that it could be an attack by rival countries of the United States or a UFO attack. Afterwards, the Alaska Department of Public Safety analyzed the case and went to the crash area. They said that on that day, there was no record of a plane crash or even debris on the mountain where the mysterious object fell. All this left more doubts. After all, this would be the most plausible explanation, right? To make matters worse, the department later denied the information it had given before, and said that it was actually a plane crash. But why all these changes to the story? Finally, the explanation was due to a phenomenon called condensation. But as the confusion was already established, many people were uninformed or did not believe in the new story being told, right? Radar. In Panamirim, the story of the fall of strange objects in the sky had not only an explanation, but also all of the data of the culprit. It all happened while a man named Alexandre Emiliano da Silva was selling coconuts on the road. Out of nowhere, an object fell near where Alexander was, and even though he was afraid, he went up to see what it was. The seller only calmed down once he realized what the thing was, a styrofoam box with an equipment inside. On the side of the object were all the owner's data and the information needed for handling it. The object belonged to the National Institute for Space Research and worked as a radar for the observations of some matters that would be studied by the institute, and the fall only happened because the balloon where the radar was placed ended up bursting. In the end, it was all a scare, but the seller and another witness were quite cross, saying that the institute should be more careful. This could cause an accident, and indeed it could, right? UFO? The next case is perhaps the most mysterious on our list today, and that's because there isn't even a single piece of information about it. It is a metal ball that supposedly fell from space and caught fire shortly afterward. The strange object must have landed in a Spanish-speaking country there, possibly between South America and Central America. This is because the narrators and camera owners speak the Latin language. Right after the fall, people put out the fire and the object became clearer, and it looked a lot like an escape pod from a space movie, you know? Or maybe the Dragon Ball anime capsule. Who knows? Maybe Vegeta is coming. Well, it's just that all the information actually ends here. Everything leads us to believe that the accident in question is fake. We've already seen that only a drone can do damage when it falls from the peak of the sky by objects made by humans. Now, wouldn't something of that size coming from space have caused even a smaller crater? Who knows? I want to know your opinion. Do you think that this capsule really came from another planet? Bovine. As we've seen here, many things can fall from the sky, but a cow is certainly one of the strangest. That's exactly what happened in this footage that we can see here, where a bovine bursts the roof out of nowhere and walks away, quite scared. The scene is so absurd that it is not possible to watch it just once. You wonder, my God, how did this happen? The explanations for this are few, but still plausible. It is possible that the cow was only on the roof, and it could not support her weight. It is also possible that a storm threw the animal onto the roof, but if the winds were strong enough for that, I believe that roof would also be flying off, right? Well, who knows? Rocket remains. Finally, we have another item, and one that may start dropping more often from now on. Rocket remains were found on the property of a man in São Mateus do Sul, Paraná. A few days earlier, the remains of a SpaceX launch were reported as objects that could fall anywhere on the planet. The researchers didn't know what could happen to it because of some problems that occurred at the launch. By chance, one of the pieces ended up on land and also in Brazil, which scared the residents of the region and became a big story for the population of the small town that doesn't have more than 50,000 inhabitants. With so much space research being done by private companies these days, cases like these may actually be more common if nothing is done. I just hope I don't have to see one of these too closely. But that's it, guys. This video will end here. Leave in the comments which of these topics surprised you the most. Don't forget that there's always new videos here on the channel, so make sure your bell is active, and we'll see each other next time. Be well. And until the next video, thanks!